Hey folks, this is James, aka Thresciornis, and today we're going to talk about spells. And this is a companion piece to my video about spells in ancient Egypt, which you should definitely go watch after this. But before we jump into it, I want to talk about, once again, our fundraiser for Haunters Against Hate. We've decided to continue going through Pride Month for this fundraiser. Midwest Spirits, the paranormal group that I'm a part of, we want to become sponsors for Haunters Against Hate. They're a group that helps haunted attractions, actors, writers, and also work with paranormal groups to promote LGBTQ issues, to do education for youth. They're really a great organization, and you can check out a link to our GoFundMe in the description below. So I have mixed feelings about spells. I used to think there was a difference between a spell and a ritual. I still think there is, but now the lines are a lot fuzzier for me. Because on the surface, the ideas behind spells is ridiculous, right? That if you do A, B, and C and say the magical words, that you'll get wealth, you'll get the love of your life, someone will have bad luck. In my experience, magic just doesn't work that way. And if you come to me and you look me in the eye and you tell me my spells always work, I'm going to call you a liar right to your face. Because in my experience, that is not how magic works. But spells are important. We'll get to that. There are almost as many excuses about why spells don't work as there are spells. And I think the reason for this is there's just so many people in the occult who are afraid to admit that they failed. They have to believe in their magic so strongly that they do not entertain the possibility that maybe it didn't work. Maybe it failed. And I think that's a shame. I think that we should confront our failures. I think we should recognize when things don't happen the way we wanted them to, because it's the only way that you're truly going to learn. So yeah, sometimes magic doesn't work. It does work sometimes. I do believe magic is real, but sometimes you just fail. It happens with everything in life. Let's debunk some of the excuses that people give as to why their spells fail. One that I've heard, not a lot, but there are people out there who still use it, is that you don't have the magic. You weren't born with it. You don't have this innate spell casting ability. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Mind you, magic is like everything else. You know, there are people out there who are just born better singers. They were born better runners. They were born better artists. That is true. But with practice, with learning, anyone can do magic. And I think that I'm proof of that. I've never believed that I had any real innate magical ability. I've never had a psychic sense. I've never even had an encounter with a paranormal being when I was a child. I have since I've gotten into magic, but every single scrap of that I've had to work really hard for. It's never been something that just comes naturally to me, but it can be learned. So no, you don't have to be of the bloodline. You don't have to be born with it. Excuse number 2. Your magic worked, just not the way that you expected. Okay, there's truth to this, because this has been my experience. That you will do magic and that the results that come from it aren't what you asked for. And some people will tell you that well, magic just gives you what you really want, that it's going to give you what you truly need, not what you think you want when you asked for it. And I think that's true. But it still doesn't mean your spell didn't fail. It absolutely failed. If you did not get what you asked for when you asked for it, then you cannot tell me that your spells always work, because they don't. Your magic works, and there's a difference. That's another thing that we'll come back to. Another excuse that I hear all the time: your spell didn't work because you did it wrong. Yeah. I don't buy it. Been plenty of spells where I followed the instructions exactly the way they were, and the spell didn't work. And what's even worse is that there's people out there who will use the excuse that there's blinds. What's a blind? A blind is when someone writes down a spell and deliberately leaves out part of it or changes part of it to protect the knowledge from the uninitiated. But I'm going to tell you how to do the real spell for just $99.95. Yeah, no, it's BS. Blinds, for the most part, are BS. There have been organizations that have taken great pains to keep their magic out of the hands of the uninitiated, to keep them out of people who have different faiths, different cultures. Yes, that happens. Am I saying that no one has ever used a blind? No, I'm not. It's been done. But for the most part, I think blinds are an excuse. For people who write spells, pull stuff out of their ass, and then say, well, the reason why it didn't work is because you don't know the secret super formula. Okay, there might be a little bit of truth to that too. Because certainly the ancients, our friends the ancient Egyptians, they certainly believed this. They believed that if your spell doesn't work, you didn't do it right. So let's talk about why spells do work. Something I've talked about before on the channel is that magic has a very strong beginner's luck element to it. That a lot of the time, if you're going to do magic for the very first time, and if it's ever going to succeed for you, it will succeed that first time, and usually spectacularly. I know that the first serious spell that I did worked very well. It was very immediate. Got exactly what I needed. And I think that there's a reason for this, because spells, what spells really require to work is not a specific formula. What they require are altered states of consciousness. Now, of course, this is just a theory. I can't prove this, but it seems to fit the facts that altered states of consciousness are what makes magic work. And in chaos magic, they call this gnosis. We've been trying to change that to the word lumen because we had some differences about how this works. There are people in chaos magic, one of its founders, who believes that this is a formula, that if you have X amount of gnosis and you do this amount of belief into it, then that will guarantee that your spell will work. Well, sorry, Pete. Gnosis is not something you can even measure. How do you measure an altered state of consciousness? At the same time, there is this component of how far away you are from a normal state of consciousness. Which of course begs the question, what's a normal state of consciousness? And of course, that's different for everyone. What's normal for the spider is chaos for the fly. Depending on what kind of life you lead, getting yourself into an altered state of consciousness is going to look different for everyone. And not only that, what is the baseline for human beings? How do you even know? Is it when we are zoned out and when we're watching TV or when we're driving, where we're not really engaging our thoughts? Or is it when we're socializing? Because human beings are incredibly social creatures. So this is their normal state of being. I don't think that question can ever really be answered. But here's one thing I do know. That magic, especially in our modern Western society, and I think this was true probably throughout time for the majority of people, that magic is not something normal. Magic isn't something that you're doing all the time. Maybe we'll get back to that. So that's why that first spell usually succeeds so well, because it is producing, just by doing magic for the first time, an extreme altered state of consciousness. So altered states of consciousness, they're a spectrum, like a lot of things. And if you look at spells, you can see how they're purpose-built to alter consciousness. They have strange ingredients that are hard to come by. You do weird, stylized actions. You speak in ways in poetry and say things that you would never say in a conversation. So spells are designed to alter consciousness. And I don't think it really matters specifically what is said. It may matter to a spirit that you're trying to work with or that sort of thing, but that's a different subject. Of course, there's tried and true ways to alter consciousness, like drugs, like meditation, and how you choose to do it will depend upon your tradition. Is it witchcraft? Is it ceremonial magic? Is it emergent magic? Is it something else? Some of you might have caught on by now that I'm not a huge fan of Thelema. If you are, that's great. There's a guy out there, a magician named Lon Milo DuQuette, and I don't agree with everything that he says, but there's a quote from him that I think is spot on, and that is, the purpose of magic is not to do magic. The purpose of magic is to become a magician. I think that's true. And I think that if you want spells to work, if you want your magic to work in general, what you have to do is you have to develop a magical lifestyle. I don't like the word lifestyle because, in this day and age, it has a lot of connotations with something that someone wants to sell you something. But it's accurate. You see this work behind me, my altars, and that is part of my magical work. Keeping the plants in my temple is part of my magical work. Bringing water to my ancestors every night is my magical work. And by doing this, by having a magical practice, things that you do every single day, it keeps you in that magical mindset. It keeps you in that kind of base, altered state of consciousness. And that, when you go and do a spell, the spell becomes a catalyst. If all you do is, every once in a while you're going to do a spell to solve some problem in your life, and not really be a magus or a witch or whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter. I don't think you're going to have much success. I think the first one will work very well, maybe the second one, and after that, you're going to have a lot of diminishing rate of returns. But if you build a magical mindset, if you become a magician, then that's when magic starts working for you. Hey folks, Starwood is coming up soon. This is a great festival. If you've never been, it's in Pomeroy, Ohio. This year it's July 11th through the 17th. Man, it's worth it. Get out there. I mean, it's just to see the end of it, and this huge parade of torches and a 3-story fire, people dancing around fires, drums, and then all the workshops and rituals and just the people. The people are great. You're going to love it. I would love to meet you there. So come on out to Starwood. Meet us there. The Emergent Magic Group's going to be there, and we're doing a bunch of workshops. I will list those. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Add your name to the Scroll of Thoth by joining our Ko-Fi fundraising campaign. Ko-Fi subscribers will receive access to the extensive archive of Scroll of Thoth podcasts, access to our private Discord server, special extended cuts of our videos, a 10% discount in our store on all Scarlet Ibis Apothecary items, bonus videos and other content, and a free 3-card tarot reading every month for those who subscribe for $10 or more. Help me create more videos on the occult and the spiritual history of ancient Egypt. Discover a magic that goes beyond the repeated platitudes of Victorian-era dilettantes and look into the true heart of the Western esoteric tradition.